welcome to another episode of What Are You Selling with me, David Green, and with me today is the USA Today best-selling author, Isra Sravenheart. How are you doing today?
I'm not too bad, thank you.
So I was looking through your published works when I was getting ready to do the interview, and so you're quite prolific, it's safe to say.
Yeah, I'm almost completing my 8-book Dark Spell series. Two of them have got to be edited. One of them is like halfway through the editing process now. So we're looking at like February, March 2022 at the earliest for those.
And
it's kind of been a long process because I started it in 2013. So yeah.
And it's not just the one series that you've kind of worked on. You've got quite a few different things that have...
I've got about 3 standalones. I've got a paranormal romance that is going to be part of a series, but it's going to be a standalone that you I'm trying to think how to explain it. There are going to be a bunch of stories in this series that are related, but the characters and the story arcs are going to be completely different. So the readers could read it as a standalone if they wanted. It's not going to follow in any kind of sort of order or anything. And that is called Forbidden Rendezvous with the Devil. It's a pre-order on Amazon at the moment. It's a pre-order wide as well, because I'm not in Kindle Unlimited. And that is going to release May 11th, 2022. So that gives me plenty of time to get it done and go through editing and all that stuff. So yeah, there is a lot going on because I'm also planning another series after, but I'm keeping that to myself for the time being. So there is kind of a lot of plans swirling around in my head, if you will.
Well, isn't that the way when you're when you're a writer? You have a few. Usually, when you're working on one book, you've got a couple of ideas that you're looking to get to in the future.
There's actually an entire document on my laptop right now that is filled with about 6 or 7 different projects.
Right. Okay.
So, it's probably not going to end immediately. You know, it was kind of a bit of a complication because I was writing Forbidden Rendezvous at the same time I was finishing book 7 in the Dark Spell series, and I kind of realized, like, about a month into doing Forbidden Rendezvous, actually I need to finish book 7 of the series first, because I can't seem to do 2 at once for whatever reason. And so I got that finished, and then now I'm continuing on with Forbidden Rendezvous, and you know, there's lots and lots of stuff in the pipeline.
Yes, well, that's always a good thing to have. It's good to have.
Yeah, I've got a few, because before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the fact I've got endometriosis. I've got fibromyalgia as well. So anything that kind of keeps me busy, keeps me kind of sane for all this pain stuff is, you know, a blessing in disguise as far as I'm concerned. Sure. So there's always going to be something for me to do.
Yes. Well, that's good. It's great to keep yourself busy. Like you say, it's a good thing to kind of keep your mind active, and also
exactly.
People enjoy it as well. People enjoy reading your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the first 5 of the Dark Spell series are published now. I've just noticed that the most recent one, which I actually published in 2019, Kissing Darkness, it's finally getting reviews. So, you know, that is really, really impressive, because I haven't really had time to kind of, you know, promote them, promote the most recent ones, if that makes sense. I'm actually working with a publicist at the moment, which is how I landed this interview in the first place. And what my publicist is going to do, he's going to release my books in box sets.
Yep.
So he's going to do 1 to 4 as a box set. and then 5 to 8 as a box set, and then he's gonna individually launch the most recent ones as well, kind of like soft launches. So there is literally a lot happening behind the scenes.
It's Michael Evan you're talking about, I presume, who's great.
Yes.
He does a lot of. I mean, he's a writer himself, which helps, I think,
Yeah,
as well, because you can kind of, he understands when you kind of talk to him and say, this is a little bit frustrating, or I'm not quite sure how this is supposed to work, and he's been through that kind of same thing as well.
yeah.
So which is always nice.
I've got no worries working with Michael whatsoever. He knows what he's talking about. Every single chat we have, I can't go too much into detail because it's all kind of in the planning, but every single chat, he's very eloquent. He's very professional. He knows exactly what he's talking about. I've got no worries about any of the launches that I'm doing with him, because he just starts talking and everything just kind of connects together, and it's really, really exciting to see where this is going to go, because for the first time ever, I'm straying away from the fantasy genre with the paranormal romance in May 2022, and he's actually going to be heavily launching that as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that goes. I mean, I've worked with different people before. I've worked with, I wouldn't say marketing companies, but book promotion companies. And while some of them have been pretty effective, others are kind of like, nah, hit and miss. And with Michael, it's a completely different thing, because one, constant communication of what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, you can simply message him and ask him, and he'll get back to me pretty quickly. So you're not like out of the loop. Whereas the book promotion companies, some of them that I've worked with, you don't know what's going on half the time, or it's just a one-off, and you might have a little bit of traction and then it kind of dies down. But with Michael, this is a long-term solid plan. And I actually, as a result of this, shortly after I started working with Michael, I stopped using personal assistants as well, because they just can't hack it. Compared to working with a publicist, it's just a complete different ballgame. So all of the social media stuff I pretty much do myself now, because I found that PAs, they just can't handle working in that kind of environment, and it's actually better if I do it myself.
Yeah, and it helps as well that you've got that back catalogue that's ready to go.
Yeah,
that's important as well, because it's not just the one book.
No.
It's the series, and it's the click through for other things.
There's actually, I don't know if you've heard of it, you probably have, but the 20 books to 50k book, 20 books to 50k group.
I have heard of it. Yeah.
My goal at the moment is to have 20 books under my belt by this time in 2023.
Okay.
And I've currently got, because by the time I publish my remaining 3 and Forbidden Rendezvous, I will have about 13. So I'll only be 7 books away. So I think that's a pretty realistic goal.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Especially seeing as you've done almost 8 in that one series since 2019.
I started it 2013.
Oh, sorry, yeah, you did published.
But the thing is, when I wrote Her Dark Soul, book 1 of the Dark Spell series, I had no idea it would be a book. First of all,
right.
I had no idea it would be a series, and then I started writing book 2. Still really wasn't knowing what I was doing with it back then. And then it was only when I kind of got halfway through book 2 that I was like, okay, this is actually going to be a series. And then I did Her Dark Rose, which is probably it's probably the tipping point for me, because that's when I felt really comfortable in my writing style. And that is actually what birthed books 4, 5, 6, and 7, because they are the prequels. And they are kind of what I believe shapes the series into what it is, because I looked at the characters, the four main characters in the series. So we've got Isra, Astrid, Everilda, and Samuel, and there's so much backstory from those characters just in books 2 and 3 alone. I was like, we have to explain this backstory, otherwise readers are not going to have a clue what's going on. And so that's what birthed the prequels. Her Dark Love, Kissing Darkness, and the other 3 I can't name yet because they're not out. But yeah.
Not give any spoilers away.
Yeah.
So where did you get the inspiration to start writing? Was it something that you always wanted?
Actually, it was a pretty weird situation. I was in a relationship. It was quite an emotionally abusive relationship. And it was basically a situation where I was being routinely ghosted on and off. And I couldn't really work out at the time what was going on, because, you know, when these things happen, we like to pretend they're not happening. And then the final ghosting happened where there was literally nothing, you know. And the funny thing was, I was going to move closer to be with this person. We discussed it like literally 2 months before. And all of our mutual friends decided not to talk to me anymore. I was isolated, and one night I just started typing, and I didn't know what it was, but it turned out to be the first 2 chapters of her Dark Soul. So it kind of stemmed from there. In terms of my inspirations, other than that, I'm quite a big fan of Disney. I'm quite a big fan of fairy tales. I've probably read a lot of fantasy books myself. I'm still trying to work my way through the first 14 Oz books. I'm only just at the end of book 11. And I started these in 2018. So I'm just kind of struggling to work my way through them, but I am getting towards the end, finally. And I used to read a lot of stuff as a child, like Lewis Carroll, a lot of like the early fairy tale stuff, really. There's still things that are sat on my shelf, like Narnia. I haven't actually read Narnia yet, which, you know, sounds really embarrassing, but I am going to get round to it. One of my favorite book series of all time is actually the Wicked series by Gregory Maguire. I've read that about 2 or 3 times at least. I wouldn't say this is really an inspiration, because this is only something I've been doing in the past 3 or 4 years due to the chronic pain stuff. But I do binge watch a lot of kind of paranormal fantasy TV shows. But that's kind of like something on my downtime. Yeah. One of my favorite authors is probably Neil Gaiman. I've read a lot of his stuff. Yeah. In terms of inspiration, I think I mainly pick up inspiration from like everyday life. There's a lot of situations in the Dark Spell series that are very relevant to everyday life without giving too much away there. There's a lot of things that people will be able to relate to. So yeah, I think the inspiration, there's multiple avenues there.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Neil Gaiman as well. I remember probably the most, well, it's actually top 2 amazing things that have happened that I've seen when someone sent a picture of like my book on a shelf, and one time it was my book was next to a bunch of Neil Gaiman books, and I was like,
oh, brilliant. Wow.
And then another time I had someone sent a picture of one of my books, and it was surrounded by Wheel of Time, the Wheel of Time series, and I was like, this is quite incredible. I never thought I would see my book with those.
Yeah, I think Michael's been talking about the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. I was talking to him about it as well. I'm a big Wheel of Time fan, so we were chatting about it the other day. So you mentioned before you have you're kind of branching out into a different area. I mean, a lot of your work before is fantasy or retellings of fairy tales. But in May you have Forbidden Rendezvous with the Devil, which is coming out, which is paranormal romance. So
Yeah.
where did that shift in gears come from? Was it just something you just had the idea
I've
for?
always been fascinated with the paranormal in real life.
Okay,
One of my favorite ever TV shows since I was a teenager is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
right.
And then the last couple of years, I got into the Vampire Diaries and the originals.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those are very kind of, they're a lot darker than Buffy. There's a lot more like life lessons, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been fascinated with vampire stories in general. You know, I think one of my favorite films in that area is probably actually Interview with the Vampire. Um, that's like, I think it's from the 90s. It's pretty
Yeah.
old now,
Yeah,
actually.
I think it's 94, I think it is.
Yeah,
1994.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always been fascinated by the paranormal anyway. And I thought, I haven't really touched this. I'm very interested in it. It's something that I do enjoy a lot. Why don't I just give this a crack? And that's basically where it's happened. You know, I don't want to, take away from anything that's already out there. I've kind of come up with my own concept. So we've basically got 25-year-old Sabine. She's a witch. She's been shunned from her hometown. And she's moved to Gloomvale, which is a quiet small town in the middle of nowhere. She's working for this vampire, Tristan Roseblood. She doesn't know he's a vampire. She's got all of this wonderful stuff to come. And she gets very friendly with him. He's a bit of a dick at first. And she's just come out of this long-term relationship with her boyfriend Oliver. We're not seeing the end of Oliver in this story, so I'm not going to say too much there. But about a quarter of the way through the book, we find out how entwined Sabine is in the vampire world. And she's not just dealing with Tristan. She then comes across his brother, Lawrence. And it turns out they've both got a bit of a thing for her. And it's kind of going to get a little bit twisted. It's going to go dark. You know, I can't guarantee there's going to be a happy ending for any of them. But it's really fun to write because I've already kind of devised how it's going to end. This is actually a habit of mine. I seem to know the ending of the book before it's actually done. I don't know why, but that seems to be the way it is. And it's going to be one of those, holy crap, you'd never see that coming.
Cool.
So it's that one's going to be pretty spectacular. Like I said, it is part of a series, so there will be more kind of vampire. The series is called Dark Law Vampire Conspiracies. So we're going to have some other vampire related stories, but they are kind of in the works. So there will be more from that, but they'll be unrelated to Forbidden Rendezvous.
Right. Okay. So stories set in the same world.
Yeah. Same world, but probably not same locations, because I like to create multiple worlds. And in the Dark Spell series alone, which is my fantasy, my main area, there's so many locations in the series, it's absolutely mental. I've actually got a whole 3 pages of an A5 notebook just of the locations in the series. So yeah, it's a pretty expansive world.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really love about fantasy and paranormal type stuff. You create all these worlds, and yeah.
I mean, that's part of the fun, isn't it? I mean, it's
yeah
and as well, fantasy readers expect like these sprawling, detailed worlds that the
Yeah,
story
they
can take
do.
place
They
in. Yeah,
do.
yeah. And it's
It
fun to go back and do something else in there as well. Once you've created it, only because
exactly. I mean,
it's over doesn't
it,
mean that it's over.
I personally think if we just had one world, one location, it would kind of cheapen the experience for readers. And I like to be expansive. I like to be creative, and there's like multiple realms. I mean, in the Dark Spell series, we've got like a light realm, we've got demon dimensions, we've got like magical realms, we've got like secluded hidden realms. There's all kinds of stuff going on there. And Forbidden Rendezvous, I've kind of touched on a similar thing, but because it's a standalone story, it's probably not as expansive as the Dark Spell, purely for the fact we're dealing in a small town situation. And it's a little bit different. It's a little bit out there compared to what I'm used to, but it's actually fun to break out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, sure.
Because I personally, as a creative person, I don't like doing the same thing anyway. So I always like to kind of break away from the norm, if you will. Although what is normal for a writer anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of a fun thing for me to kind of take away from what I know and just kind of do something else, so that maybe while I'm doing it, I might actually end up learning something new. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the great way to kind of stretch yourself, because that's the way that your writing is going to improve as well.
Yeah.
So where can people find you? I know you sent me your link tree before, which will be in the
so basically I'm published on Amazon and I'm published wide. So basically there's a whole list of retailers. I'll happily send you the books to read links in a bit. But basically it's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple iBooks, Kobo. There's a range of retailers, to be honest. I can't think of all of them offhand. There's so many. I'm not in Kindle Unlimited, because obviously you can't be in Kindle Unlimited and wide.
Yeah.
Forbidden Rendezvous is on a pre-order. It releases in May. It's pre-order on both Amazon and on the other platforms, because I know some people don't want to touch Amazon, and that's totally fine. But yeah,
Excellent stuff. And when 2023, when you've got the 20 books all done, what's the goal after that?
I honestly don't know, because I've got a couple of ideas that are brewing about at the moment, so there may well be a lot more than 20. But it's kind of one of those wait and see things, because although I'm pretty plagued with this health issues stuff, this chronic pain things, I'm still managing. This year alone, I've managed to churn out almost 4 books. So that's pretty impressive with all the things that I've got going on. But we will see how it goes. Nothing can really be predicted that far in advance, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that is the goal, and who knows?
We'll see. We'll watch this space, and hopefully you'll come on again and we can chat again later on.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to say later on in the year, but it's almost the end of the year, so next year in 2022.
Yeah. The final 3 in the Dark Spell series, I'm estimating spring 2022, because like I said, the final 2 are with the editor. The covers have all been done almost. We've got one cover that's almost done, and yeah, we're almost ready to go. So that's why I've given the release plenty of time. I mean, to be honest, November to February, no one really buys books in that time anyway, so it's kind of a bit moot. And I don't like to release during that time, because I've actually done it before and it didn't go too well. So I've kind of learned from that experience as well. And spring, it's a really exciting time. Everyone's like ready to begin, and yeah, so spring.
They have money as well after Christmas when it comes to February.
Exactly. And I've actually observed this on my personal Facebook in the last couple of weeks. There's a couple of authors on my feed that have been doing releases, and sadly the results are not that great. And it's just kind of yeah.
Yeah, there's certain points. I mean, this is a whole different discussion maybe for the next time, but there's certain points of the
Exactly,
year better than others.
yeah.
Start spring, start summer holidays when people are going away and they want something to read.
Exactly, yeah.
That's the way. Well, Isra, thank you very much for coming on, and best of luck for the rest of it, and speak to you very soon.